Hello, I'm Gabe Dunn, and welcome to this amazing panel with the co-creators, executive producers, and the cast of Swiping America. Welcome, guys. It's the whole crew.
Thank you for having us.
Hello. Thank you for being here. So we have Johnnie, Ingram, and Stephen Warren, who are the co-creators and executive producers. We have Ash Warren. We have Krishnanand, Kelkar, Reagan Baker, and Kesun Lee, who are the cast members. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yes. The show was so beautifully wholesome and just like so lovely. And I wanted to ask Stephen and Johnnie, like, where did you come up with the idea to do this show in all these different cities? And the tone of it just being like life affirming and wholesome and lovely.
Well, Stephen and I are huge fans of romantic comedies. We also are known for a show called We're Here on HBO. And we're very proud of that show. And off the heels of that, there was just really wanted to, we had this idea of what if we could sort of make a romantic comedy out of, people from the city, getting outside their comfort zones and, dating across the country. And much like, we took, in a different way, we took, famous drag performers from the big city to smaller communities. It's not dissimilar, but we wanted this to have tonally not wholesome wasn't necessarily, I think, the word we used, but we wanted it to be about love, because I think we see a lot of dating shows that are more like game shows or competitions, and it sort of never really landed love for us. And I think, well, if there is this, search for love, we want the audience to really fall in love with, our cast, particularly watch them on their journey in search of love, and that's the simple idea. But we, having that inspired a lot of locations that, we chose to go on, and we really wanted to it's that search for love, but also an experience of a place, a new place that you've never been before, maybe seeing it through a local's lens. And if you're dating someone there, you can tend to get like a, more of an insider ideas of what a place may be like. So that's somewhat in a nutshell how this came to be.
And for like each of the cast members, what convinced you to be a part of something that is like experimental? If you want to go first, Ash.
Honestly, meeting Johnnie and Stephen, we had a meeting in person, and I just loved their spirits, and I trusted them with my story, and I was like, this is crazy, but let's try it. And I had I guess what was that our Kim test, and I fell in love with these three, and I was sold. I was like, if they pick me, I'm so down.
Well, yeah, it is a lot of trust, right? So like for you, Kesun, like what made you trust in the process and in the show?
Yeah, I mean, I love the idea of an original version of a dating show, because I hate all the dating shows that are out there. And I love when they were explaining the idea to me, I totally fell in love with the concept. I love to travel. I was at this point a little bit feeling like one foot was out the door for New York City for me. So I was kind of open to exploring other cities. And, I had never seen a Korean woman out in America trying to explore and, meet random men. So I was like, I will be the first. I will do this for the rest of the people.
What about you, Chris, in terms of like being open to the vulnerability? Like, I think you got more comfortable being vulnerable as the show went on. So how did you get initially into it?
Yeah, I think part of it was that, they reached out to me in like summer of 2021. And at that point, I think a lot of us had a lot of pent up energy and wanted to really kind of set like a refresh on a lot of things in our lives. But also like personally, I really hate when there's something I want to do, but I feel like I can't do it. So, and for me, like I'm such an introvert that the idea of even going on a show was very daunting. But at this moment, at that time in my life, it just felt like okay, if I'm going to do it, these people, they did We're Here, they're queer. I'm like so down for this. And I tried to face it head on.
No, you did a great job. It was very clear you're introverted, and like it's by the end you really like come out of your shell, and it's really beautiful to watch. How did they convince you, Reagan?
Well, I knew based off of the network that it was going to be something that was different than other things that I had seen, even if, it's funny. I don't necessarily feel like the target audience, but I have certainly become that. And I definitely love. So I was excited to be involved in something like this. And when I met Stephen and Johnnie, they told me about We're Here, and I started watching We're Here, and I immediately loved it. And that combined with meeting my 3 castmates, I just knew that it was going to be very special and unique. And I was thrilled to be invited.
I wanted to ask Ash, Kesun touched on like going around, all these different places in the US. And was there a particular city that stood out for you in terms of like queer community or queer nightlife?
We filmed a lot during COVID, and so I can't speak too much to like nightlife other than what I was familiar with in Miami. So I would say Miami and Seattle felt the most queer to me. And yeah, I loved that. I loved being able to, walk outside and feel like, oh my gosh, I'm around my people. This is awesome. Much like you feel like you're in New York or in LA. So that was really nice.
Yeah, it's more expected in New York and LA versus the cities that you guys
totally.
Totally. What about for you, Chris?
Similar sentiments to Ash. I would say the thing that really stood out to me though was, in Santa Fe, there were so few people in general. So it was like, I think probably the least populous city that we went to, maybe Boulder as well. But, these smaller cities, it really made me grateful for the like abundance of like visibly queer people in my community. Not to say that these communities don't have strong queer communities, but I think it's probably a lot harder to find that.
Mm-hmm. How did you choose the cities, Stephen and Johnnie? Like what made a city a yes for you?
We wanted to find, number one, a wide variety of cities. We wanted cities where there would be queer experiences that were easy to find, where there would be like a Miami where, there's so many different people of all ethnicities, and it's the diverse population. That's one factor. Then on the other hand, we wanted fish out of water, so that we would choose places where we thought, wouldn't it be fun to see these 4 leads in Boulder, in Santa Fe, or New Orleans is a place that we chose because there's just so much romance, associated with New Orleans and a cult and all this stuff. And I think that was a place that, we were all excited to go to because we felt the possibility there. And then Asheville was our first stop, which I love all of the leads' expressions when they first heard, "Where are you going?" And it's like, Asheville? Like that's in North Carolina? Asheville is this really cute city that I once wound up, driving through, and I thought, this is beautiful in the middle of nowhere. And so Johnnie and I would, come up with lists of places, and that he's from very close to Asheville. So he was very familiar.
Yeah, I'm used to bringing all my friends to Eastern Tennessee. I'm more Dollywood, and they would always just be like flipping out, like, "Where are we?" And
I know. I'm from Florida, so I have a similar experience where all of my vacations were to Dollywood or the Smoky Mountains.
Yes, every day, every year.
But we learned a lot, from going to these different places, and it was hard finding daters, finding people. We wanted more than anything for our leads to love the people that they were matching with. We wanted them to be excited, and some of the places were easier to find people than others. So, it was a challenge for us.
And yeah, much like, We're Here, is very focused on small communities. We couldn't really go to such a small community. I don't think the experience would be for singles. It's just not as populous of a place. So there, that did sort of render us into smaller cities for the most part. But I think, they all just have different backdrops. They all have different sort of romantic, like Asheville specifically has a very rich culinary, sort of community that's very unexpected. Clearly Miami has the nightlife that was sort of unfortunately ruined by COVID, and then some other sort of, but we did found sort of wonderful romantic beach, and outdoor romantic places and settings. So I think that was sort of the unexpected thing with the show, is just finding really romantic backdrops for the leads to hopefully connect with someone.
We also wanted to make sure we could have somebody forage.
Foraging.
Of course.
I did that. Of course. I was available.
That woman that you met was totally worth the whole trip.
I'm like, why wasn't she at every city we went to?
Leading you through every activity. Yeah,
She should have her own show. Honestly, she should swipe America and forage everywhere. That would be great.
I have to say, coming from East Tennessee, squirrel is on the menu. So I have heard not. This was the first time I heard that.
Oh, no.
Not season 2.
Not for me. Not for me.
They heard in New York. It's a
I haven't eaten it, but I have been asked before.
Oh, yeah.
Not that you know of, you've eaten it.
Imagine there's a long period of time from filming to watching it back. So I wanted to ask any of the leads, maybe starting with Reagan, was there anything that you like forgot about and then you watched it back and you were like either delighted or you were like, oh no?
Not necessarily anything that I forgot about, but I wasn't on my castmates' dates, so it was delightful to watch my castmates, meeting these people from every city. And I mean, actually, I guess it was really fun to watch our interactions with each other, especially the footage that we got. We had a really, really small camera crew at night, just basically one person and a PA. And that was when we really chilled out and like really, it's very, it's just so authentic of our friendship. And so it was really fun to watch that.
For any other of you guys, was there anything that you watched back and went, I can't believe that's in there? Or that you were happy made it?
I just love the cuts of Mosey. Mosey was like definitely our 5th housemate, and like it was such a personal. I think we all have like personal every time I see Reagan, like Mosey comes up and it's like, oh my god,
Mosey,
Sweet sexy.
Mosey has her own life. And she has a different relationship with all of us. It's really funny to see that.
Literally.
It's really great.
It's so funny.
Yeah.
I was a little jealous.
Yeah, I would totally agree with Reagan too. And just piggybacking off of what she said, I think watching like the small moments of interactions between the 4 of us, and it really does blossom throughout the show. And it's really, really wonderful that it was caught on camera because we're still obsessed with each other. So it's great.
I was going to say the love story was truly the friends you made along the way.
Yeah.
And that's something that's really special, about the show. I mean, is queer people and straight people coexisting, and that's wonderful. I mean, I don't think there was, a moment we have, a lot of different shows that tend to be in silos, and what we really wanted to portray is friendship, and people that also have a lot in common, which is, living in the big city and struggling and being single, and coming from different places. Some people have escaped, one place to come to the big city. Often a lot of queer people have the same experience, and coming together and searching for, what in following your heart. I mean, that's what's more romantic than that, and to lean on each other. Sometimes as a group, sometimes you would have friendships form in pairs and talking to each other deeply about your experiences, and as not only a human being, but as a human being in search of love. And that's, we have a lot to teach each other, and I think that's really, call it wholesome, whatever you want to call it. It's real life, and everybody's humans. We have a lot more in common than the current political climate is portraying.
I mean, dating is an isolating process anyway, so it is interesting to have a group of people sort of sharing their experiences with each other, rather than, it's a lonely sort of thing to pursue yourself.
When we first sold the show to HBO, it was really what HBO wanted more than anything was a true to life experience of 4 people sharing their dating lives and sharing, you know, the ups, the downs, the support. And what really, I think, you know, touches me the most about the show is that that is really what was captured. You know, at the end of the day, it brings me back to my time, you know, when I was in college and in law school, and, you know, the friends that I had then that, you know, we lived together, and that these 4, you know, who didn't know each other beforehand got to go through this, you know, shared experience, and they really were there for each other.
Well, and that, you know, is that the actual format of the show was crafted around. I don't know, Gabe, if you've had a chance to go to Fire Island, or if you're in New York City, or have been to Fire. I know Chris. I think Chris was just there.
It was just there.
Oh, you have a good time.
Very.
You know, a clear sort of escape from the city for generations, and in, you know, our personal experience was actually getting a share with mostly single friends, both straight and queer, and everyone would kind of go off, you know, and, you know, get up to some fun activities, and then they come back because you have to come back for dinner. It's like there's like a whole thing, come back for dinner, and everyone just talked and drank, and we talked about, you know who you may have went on a date with, or some hookups or whatever it be. And it was sort of that sort of, you know, it's that, hey, we're going to go and have an experience, we're going to come back and talk about it. And that was, what if we took that on the road? And sort of that's how the format ended up working out, and how we decided to form that the structure of the show.
I mean, yeah. How did in speaking about dating being lonely, and then seeing on the show that there was so much camaraderie, like, how did your thinking about dating change from being on the show? If you want to, Kesun, if you want to talk about that, or like how you interact maybe with friends in terms of telling them about dates or getting their opinions.
Yeah, I mean, I think this was a really unique experience for so many reasons, but for me, it stood out that I was able to come home in the after my date and just spill all the details to all of my 3 single friends who kind of went through the same thing but a different version. And I think that's what makes it a little bit tricky. You know, as you get older, like your single friends slowly but surely start to disappear, and like then there's only 1 or 2 left, and then there's 1 left. And so it was really refreshing to be in a space where everybody's going through the same experience. It was such a roller coaster of emotions the entire time. And, you know, in the mornings, we'd all have coffee together and totally like debrief about the day. And then at the end of the day, we would have dinner together and, you know, bust out the champagne and the tequila. And like, it was really nice to just be able to fully debrief with everybody who was also dating. And like, dating it's awful, and then it's fun, and then it sucks, and then it's like humiliating, and then it's like the best day ever, and it's like all of these things. So everybody going through it at the same time, it was so helpful, and it was such a good refresher for me personally, because I don't have any other single friends. So I kind of had the best time ever with that part of it. Yeah.
What about you, Chris, in terms of like changing the way you approach dating now?
Yeah, if you can't tell, like I think naturally I gravitate towards being a little serious. And I got to like, you know, I did get to Reagan's point, we didn't get to really see each other date, but I heard about their dates and I was like, oh wait, I can have fun. Like, well, why am I wasting my time? I've been on, from now on, if I were going on dates, I feel like it should always be something fun for everyone.
What about you, Ash?
Yeah, I mean, I think I've learned to trust your friends more in your dating process. My sister's like, you could literally tell me like 6 months later and you're pretty much really in a serious thing by then. Like, why don't I know anything? And so I try to figure things out on my own, and that can be great. That can be really bad. And so, yeah, just like calling someone and being like, what do you think about this? This is what I did. This is this person. Are they fucking weird? You know, like, what are we doing here? Yeah. And that's really these 3 now. It's like, this is what's happening. Tell me what to do. And so it's really cool to have people that, number one, that you love and trust. I think that's the difficult part about dating, is getting feedback from people that really have your best interests at heart. And also like coming back and like, dating is so exhausting. So like, don't do it if you don't mean it, I think is one of the biggest things that I take away. I'm like, if I'm bored, like recognize that I'm just bored and that I actually don't want to go on dates, because it's a challenge. And it's like, do I want to open that can of worms, or am I ready to do that? And so I think I'm just more intentional about it now, for sure.
Yeah. What about you, Reagan?
I think the thing that was the most unique about this experience, and when I say unique, not just for our lives, but in general, not a lot of people have the opportunity to sort of pause from the rest of their life and just focus on their love life for 3 months straight with a team of producers kind of walking them through it. So I absolutely had a mirror to look into every single day about the way that I date. And I had a lot of habits revealed to me just through subtle questions that the producers would ask me, or my castmates would ask me or something. So, it was very interesting for me. I really learned a lot. And it was, day by day, I was learning so much that I was almost like overload sometimes. And I definitely changed a lot of habits, and learned a lot. I've never learned so much in my life. This is like the most unconventional education. I have like a PhD in love now.
So true. So true.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, was there any sort of things where somebody was dating or into someone or going through, and like the rest of you were like, oh my God, how do we tell them this is bad?
No.
No.
What are you talking about? Next question.
Yeah.
It's hard. It is hard to tell your friend, like, if they're asking for advice. It's so hard to be like, okay, so.
Yeah, this is going to be a come to Jesus moment. I think all of us we really were rooting for each other to find people, to be happy with, even if it was just for a moment. So it was, we celebrated the very, very small wins. And, when somebody deserved to be, when a date deserved to be bashed, then we would just go all in too. So it was just supportive on whichever end of it. And, trying to also keep in mind that we're all, so being so vulnerable and open. So it's hard to have those conversations at any point in your life. But, when you're in a little bubble like this and things feel a little bit more sensitive than normal, I think it's maybe best to just kind of not.
The format of the show is an optimist. It comes from an optimist's point of view that there is someone out there, and that process is complicated, and I think and even when you do have someone that you're starting to have feelings for, there's disruptions in that, and that sometimes can be progress, or it can fall apart. And so I think that is sort of capturing really the intricacies of, instead of it going from 0 to marriage, it's like those small steps towards someone, because it is really challenging as everyone just coming from all these different backgrounds and projecting all their trauma onto each other and from a relationship perspective. And then at some point you're just hoping that it, blends and you can support each other. And, but even in that process, there are hiccups and in, there are lots of examples in the season where, people work through that and they support each other through both. There are little mini breakups. They're not, this isn't about focusing on drama or fighting or the negativity. It is about that true optimism that there is someone out there for me. And, I'm hopeful I'll find it within this love simulation.
I have to say, Johnnie and I are really so proud of the fact that we were able to find, along with our showrunner and our director and the network, these 4 leads. I mean, these are people that have such heart, such intelligence, such humor, and that more than anything, like their, difficulty in responding to that last question was indicative of the fact why we chose them. This is not one of those shows you'll see on some of those other networks that are catty and tearing people down. They were trying to raise each other up. And you know, when there wasn't good dates, you know, there were not good dates. It was clear there were some not good dates, but, you know, they would do it in a way that was respectful.
Yeah,
they're not for me, but they're not a bad person.
Yeah,
and you know, when you have experience, you know, we didn't, you know, want to choose people in their early 20s that are just still just like bouncing off, and who knows, you know, who you're going to end up with and why, and still figuring out who you are. You know, have some experience, not a ton of experience, because I think you're all like 29, right? But the late 20s, and so you have a little bit of experience in dating. So you know, it wasn't necessarily all just like chaos and drama. I think it was really focused on, you know, I'm a fully formed human being. I have a lot to offer, and I'm looking for another fully formed human being.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Yeah, I got that from the show, that it's like, look, they weren't for me, but it doesn't, we're not making fun of anyone. We're not, you know, exploiting trauma, anything like that. I wanted to ask about the date zeros because it looked hectic. How did those typically go for you guys, and how long was it, and how many people, and how soon did you like know that people were a fit or not a fit?
I think Ash should take this question because she had the
Wow.
record for the shortest date zero.
That's so mean. Wow, I forgot about that. I apparently have the record, and I remember now. Thank you. I'm like, what was the question? Just kidding.
What were those like?
Yeah, I mean, they were like, some cities were fun and some cities were not, and like that's just like the best way to put it. It's also, I think, such a good practice that we typically, like, you live in New York, you're doing that, you don't even realize you're doing it. You're kind of constantly speed dating people, and so it's like 15, 20 minutes, you know, like a max of 30 minutes. You're like, oh my God, I feel something with this person. But it really forces you to get down to like the nitty gritty. Like, what are your values? Can we go outside and have a good time? Is this going to be weird? Do I feel safe with you?
Are you vegan?
And yeah, literally.
Are you vegan?
You know, are you vegan? If you're vegan, is it okay that I'm not? Like, that's the question I should have asked. It would have saved me so much trauma, you know? But yeah, I think it was so beautifully done in a way. Like, yes, it was chaotic, but like, life is chaotic. Dating is chaotic. And it never, even in the chaos, it felt very peaceful, kind of, in a way, because you just have someone, you date them, and it's like, you tell someone yes or no, or you're like, I'm not sure. And I had many moments in cities where I was just like, I'm not sure. I kind of want to think about this, because I had 2 or 3 great dates. So yeah, but I did end a date in like 5 minutes. That was weird. I mean, we were like more than halfway through. I'm like, I don't have time for this. Like, this is just not, we're not aligned. And they also felt we weren't aligned. It was just like, bro power, have a great day.
I wanted to ask, yeah, about the vegan situation, but more broadly, like, that read is so queer to me, like the whole like vegan situation.
It was the queerest thing that's ever happened to me, so much that I thought that they had like scripted it, and I was like, guys, like not funny, you know? And she was so serious. I was like, okay, Ashton Kutcher, like, this is one of those moments where like they planned this, ha ha ha. And no, I was like, this is being queer. This is the queerest moment of my entire existence. Thank you for that.
Yeah, I was gonna say, for you and Chris, were there other instances where you're like, this is so fun that this is getting on screen because it's almost an inside joke? Or like just very specific like queer experience, or something that you're, even not that it's funny, but even something that you're like, wow, I'm glad that this very queer thing got on camera. That's such a cool question.
Yeah.
I have one funny. I'm just going to serve it to you, Chris. Whenever you were at this is the funniest. I thought it was funny. At least I noticed it. I don't know. It was very subtle. So you had to have like, you know, a real eye for it. But it was like, whenever you and Reagan were in Austin, it's like, who's going to lead?
Oh yeah.
This air dancing moment. It's
that
like,
was...
and you all did like a rock, paper, scissors.
About the, yeah.
It was just assumed that, you know, the man would lead. Yeah.
I think that's a very good one. Yeah, otherwise I don't think that there was anything that stood out, but a lot of interactions, it's really nice to realize that, you know, like there's no expectations like who pays for the dinner or things like that. I don't think a lot of that stuff comes up on camera, but it's like particularly queer. I've never been on a date where I've not gone Dutch. So it's, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, that's interesting. That's also something that you don't realize straight people are just kind of assuming in certain ways. You know, like the square dancing one is very cute. I like that a lot. Do you have any other experiences, Ash, that you were like, I'm glad this is on camera now?
I mean, I think now that I've seen it 500 times, I think the conversation that I have with myself and the producers about like being soft mask at first, and I saw it, I'm like, why is this here? But I mean, I've gotten a lot of people reaching out saying like, I have words for how I feel. Like, thank you so much. And so like, that's really cool to see that, you know, even in your discomfort, like you could relate to other people somewhere in the world. And so I think that that's been really awesome. And yeah, I mean, I think that's part of the queer experience, like defining what that means for you and how that looks in this season of your life. I've evolved so much since coming out, and I think this show really reminded me of that, and that's something to be proud of. And I love who I am right now, and I'm excited to see who I become in a year or two.
Oh.
Someone very close to me today called and just said that they had seen the first 2 episodes and they had watched with their non-binary 13-year-old.
Mm-hmm.
And non-binary 13-year-old was elated when they saw Ashleigh talk about, you know, what it means to be soft mask and is there somebody out there for me, and just it gave it you know, my friend had just told me that it changed this, you know, whole person's outlook, you know, their child's outlook, that there is somebody like, wow, I this is how I feel. And that, you know, for both We're Here and this show, it's so important for Johnnie and I to be creating television that inspires those moments. And we're really proud of the show for that.
In representing stories, you know, we don't dig deep into, you know, any trauma. We really wanted to keep this about celebrating love and the optimistic journey towards love and working through some stuff, you know, maybe it's the trauma through, you know, this device that is, you know, complicating things, but also, you know, it is about celebrating friendship and that time that you have in this very specific point in your life. Hopefully it's not a multiple, but it can be, because, you know, relationships are all different types of relationships, and we don't have to always get married, and it's not about, you know, this marriage thing. It's just about the people you meet along the way, and that journey is, I think, is quite special and quite beautiful and fun. I mean, the date zero is literally, I mean, I want to go back to that question because it was like, you know, for us as producers, we were really rooting for everyone. We really wanted, you know, because we did the initial picking for everyone. So we really wanted, I mean, I'm not a big sports person, but we were like, literally like tense, like watching, like, do they like them? Do they like them? Do they like them? And then next thing you're like, you know, no, they didn't, or they did. And then we would get really we would celebrate. And it was just literally, I mean, it's almost like you need the whole camera crew watching us just like bite our nails and hoping that there's a connection. So, Mosey,
okay. That's part of the show.
Mosey also had a very, you know, was very opinionated too about a lot of states. So,
of course, had their own talking head for just the dog. It must feel like, oh my God, if they hit it off, like I'm gonna go to the wedding and I'm watching love bloom in front of my eyes, and what if I chose soulmates? You know what I mean? Like, it must be so nerve-wracking to watch that.
Oh yes.
Well, what was really fun for us was that, you know, we spent so much time poring over all of these people that for the daters in these cities, and that the people that we would think, you know, would be like, oh, I'm so excited, Reagan, you're going to meet this person that I know you're going to really like. And then sometimes we were just completely off, you know, then you meet them in person. It's like, I go, oh man, I was off, but, you know, I'm glad you had your date zero with him. And then a couple times I would actually like go and interview Reagan afterwards, you know, in a couple of the cities. And we just had the best time because, you know, we just would laugh, and, you know, she would just spout off like, yeah, this is what I think. And, you know, I like this, but I didn't like this.
For a final question, I wanted to ask, like, for the cast, like, what can you tease about the way it ends for you on this show, not in your current lives?
I mean, there's recreational marijuana in Boulder.
And those are the facts.
That's true.
Those are great times. There's a lot of that. Yeah, I mean, I think obviously people can tell by episode 2 that a lot of it is about our friendship that we develop and grow over time. And so I think that's like the cutest, best spoiler that we could possibly ever give, because it is. It's a lot about that. I think you see in the next 4 episodes us finding ourselves, finding what we like, finding what we don't like, and giving ourselves a chance to find love. I think that's a really big part of it. I think you go into it like, or at least I did, like walls up, like I know what I want and I know I'm going to get out of this. And then you come to the end, you're like, what just happened? Like, I'm so different. This is so different. Wow. And so you see us go on that journey of swiping and realizing like this person is nothing like their profile, like real life, or pleasantly or unpleasantly. And so it's just the journey of dating, I think, is really beautifully put together.
Yeah. And if you're set up by someone, it might not work the way that you thought
Yeah.
it would do. But the other person is so excited about.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And there's an opportunity, for in these episodes as to go a little deeper as the format, there is this heightened romantic, hey, I just met you, but would you meet me in the next city? So there is this sort of like travel dating aspect, which is, that is a heightened romantic, like it's now or never. I'm here. If we're gonna do this, I know I just met you, but I gotta go.
Yeah.
But, would you come meet me somewhere else? And I think that is just interesting to watch, early on in a relationship, or what's budding of a relationship, or the starting of a relationship, is like, how does that affect, when you're just all in, like Reagan was saying, suddenly hyper focused on your love life, and then how that quickness, makes it sort of spontaneous and fun. And that is the heightened sort of romance of the format that's fun to watch. So you'll see some characters that you've met in the first couple episodes reappear, and in some fantastic ways and some not.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that's coming up in these next 4 episodes is, you see all 4 of us taking chances and kind of taking jumps, and just kind of diving in and being open to seeing what happens next. And probably the only cliffhanger would be, do any of us find anybody that we like more than each other?
There's also a fortune teller that reveals someone's going to get married.
Oh,
it's true.
And then everyone's invited.
Suddenly the show is about marriage, but I don't know. I know we said it was about swiping, but now we just don't know.
Weddings at the end.
The woman with the squirrel officiates. It's very beautiful.
It's great.
We eat the squirrel for the appetizer.
and we actually were the bears.
I do want to add one thing to this, where for your audience at NewFest, which I love NewFest, by the way, but if all of your audience who's watching this and who's watching the show respond to the show in the way that we hope that you're going to respond, that they're going to respond, it's really important for queer inclusive, dating shows and all shows to be on the air. And we need the support, and we need the viewership, and we need people talking among each other and saying, hey, I love seeing this. I love seeing this foursome, from all different backgrounds, queer inclusive, non-queer, all of that. It's very important that the word gets out. So I encourage everybody, if you like the show, spread the word, go on Twitter, do whatever you want, but just get it out there.
Definitely.
Or TikTok or Instagram. Twitter's a burning garbage bin of.
Yeah.
Post on Instagram. Use TikTok.
Instagram.
Thank you so much for being here, and thank you to NewFest, and Max for hosting, and thank you guys so much for sharing your journey with everyone and your vulnerability, and yourselves taking so many risks and also being such cute friends. So we appreciate it. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you.